Hello. Welcome back to my channel. Alinafe Edwards here. Another day, another video, another plug. I'm all about plugging you guys because I love you, and you know, as selfless I am, I just want to share what I know. The goal is to make sure that you learn a new skill that will be able to help you to make an extra income. It might not be much, but it might be something. So, if you are watching this video, that means you are interested to know how to sew and all the basic necessary things that you need to know as a beginner. So in this video, I'm going to break it down for you, everything that you are going to learn as a beginner. If you want to start a career in fashion designing, or you want to be a tailor, or you just want to be sewing for yourself or for your family and friends, I'll just break it down. Everything that you need to know, the basic stuff. Because after the basic stuff, after you know all the basic stuff, you need to complete, to finish. After that, everything else is just about designing, manipulating the design, creating unique designs from that. But this is everything that you need to know. So without wasting much of our time, let's get into it. Okay, so don't be too hard on yourself. One of the first things that you need to have, at least, don't go too big, but something basic that will get you going. Get yourself a domestic machine. Why should you get yourself a domestic machine? For practical reasons, so that you should be able to practice. So once you get a domestic machine, know how to use the machine. You are going to know how to use the machine. So the first thing to get is your domestic machine. As you can see behind me, I have my baby here in white and pink. I have my baby here. It's a domestic machine that I used when I was also a beginner. So a domestic machine is one of the things that you will need to get. After a domestic machine, you need a tape measure that you are going to be using to take body measurements or whatever measurements that you need for your sewing project. So you need to get a tape measure. After a tape measure, just know that as a beginner, you are going to learn how to take body measurements. Before taking body measurements, you have to know how to read your tape measure. So apparently, you can either choose to be using inches or you can choose to be using centimeters, but you have to know how to read your tape measure. After that, you will learn how to take body measurements. After you're done learning how to take body measurements, your sewing machine, once you are done knowing how to use it, you know the ins and outs of how to use it, you will learn how to sew on a straight line. You do not just go on your machine and start that big project that you have been dreaming of. No, it's a matter of patience. Sewing, patience is vital. It's very important to be very patient, because if you're frustrated, anything can go wrong. So you need to be calm and patient. You will learn as a beginner how to sew on a straight line. You can engage yourself in small projects, just like maybe sewing a purse, sewing pom-poms, the one that you put on your hair, sewing crunches, things like those, just to get you practice how to sew and how to use your machine and the functionality of each and every stitch of your machine, and also each and every part. You are going to learn everything about the domestic machine, and after that, you are going to learn how to sew on a straight line. Once you're done learning how to read a tape measure, taking body measurements, using your domestic machine, how to sew on a straight line, it's a practical process. As you go, it's not that you are going to improve after 2 days on how to sew on a straight line. As you are engaging yourself in practical projects, That's how you are going to learn. Before you know it, you are sewing on a straight line. Because like for my domestic, get yourself a domestic machine that has guidelines. Because like for me, mine has guidelines that when you put your fabric or your paper, whatever you are using to practice, it has guidelines on the side so that it go beyond that. And how are you going to learn how to sew on a straight line? Some people, they prefer using a paper and they just draw lines, zigzag lines, straight lines, circles, and then they'll be practicing using a paper. And others, they go straight using a fabric. But for me, I only share what I've experienced, the process that I've gone through, because girl doesn't share things that she hasn't gone through, but I have gone through the process. So I can only share you what I did. So for me, I didn't use the paper to practice how to sew on a straight line. I used the actual fabric. You now know how to take body measurements. It's time now to transfer your body measurements to a pattern drafting paper. So that's where now drafting a pattern comes in. As a beginner, you are going to learn basics in pattern drafting, in pattern making. What is it and why should you learn how to draft patterns before you transfer them on your fabric? Is to make sure that you minimize the mistakes that you can make, because once you are drafting on a paper, you can make as much mistakes as you can, as many mistakes as you can, and you can correct it before you transfer your drafted pattern on actual fabric. The whole goal is to make sure you are not wasting any fabric, and any mistakes that you are going to make on your pattern, you are going to correct it, because that's a draft. And when you are satisfied with your draft, that's when you transfer it on the actual fabric. So after you have taken your measurements and you want to start at least doing some actual projects, you are going to engage yourself in pattern making. The first thing that you are going to learn as a beginner in sewing, or as a beginner, or you want to pursue a career in fashion designing, is to make a basic bodice. A basic bodice is actually just a normal top that fits your body, the bust, the waist, and the hip. Yes, that's your basic bodice. You are going to learn how to draft basic bodice. How are you going to draft your basic bodice? You are going to use the measurements that you are going to take on your body before you even try to engage yourself with customers and whatever. You have to learn how to take your own body measurements, or if you have a friend or a relative close to you that you want to be using as practice, you can take body measurements and then you transfer everything on your pattern paper to make it a bodice. Another thing that you are going to learn as basic, A-line skirt. It's a normal skirt, a basic skirt. You know those skirts that we used to wear in primary school and in secondary school? Yes, those skirts that doesn't have any style. It's just that suits just your body. That suits your body. So you are going to learn how to draft a basic skirt. So normally a basic skirt and a basic bodice, if you attach it together, it makes a basic A-line dress. So it's that easy. So you are going to learn how to draft a pattern, a basic bodice pattern, basic skirt pattern. After that, you are going to learn basic sleeves, like the actual sleeve, because when you are drafting a basic bodice, it doesn't have sleeves. So basic sleeves, you also draft it separately to attach it to your garment. So you are going to learn that as a beginner as well. After basic sleeves, you are going to learn also how to attach these things together, attaching basic bodice to a basic skirt to make it a basic dress. That is if you want to make a simple dress. If you just want to sew a basic bodice, then it's just a basic bodice, whether with sleeves, without sleeves. If you want it to have sleeves, that means you are going to join your basic sleeves to your bodice. But if you want a dress that has sleeves, that means you are going to join together your basic bodice and your basic skirt and your basic sleeves to make a complete dress. So it's that simple. If you want to go further, you are going to learn as well how to draft pants, like trousers. Yeah, so you know when you're done drafting a trouser, that means if you want to make a jumpsuit, it's just a basic bodice and a basic trouser, and you join it together. Yes, and that's what is called a garment construction. You are going to, so once you are done drafting all these separately, the next thing is, let's say you are done drafting your basic bodice. That means you have to transfer whatever you have drafted. Now you are satisfied that this is what I want. You have added all necessary seam allowances, because there is no joining without seam allowance. Seam allowance is an extra. It's an extra fabric that you put on your fabric so that it should help you to have space when you are sewing. And then you transfer it to your fabric. After you're done drafting all the basic stuff, you are going to transfer. Let's say you want to engage yourself in a basic skirt, that you just want to make a basic skirt, practice on a basic skirt. You are going to draft your basic skirt. Once you're done drafting it on your pattern, you are going to cut it with a paper scissor. In fashion designing or sewing, whether it tailors, you need to have 2 pairs of scissors. One for fabric cutting, and it's only for fabric cutting alone. You are not going to use fabric cutting pair of scissors on anything and anything at all. Not in your kitchen, not on any other thing. It's going to be only for your fabric. And there is a paper cutting scissor that you are going to be using to cut your patterns when you are done doing everything. So once you are done doing everything, you are going to transfer it on a fabric, and you are going to get your your fabric cutting scissors. If you do not know the tools that you need as a beginner to start your journey in sewing or in fashion designing, please kindly, I dropped a video a week before this one explaining all the necessary tools that you need as a beginner. So I'll put the link in the description box below. Kindly go and watch that video before you proceed with this video, because that video will give you an idea of the things that I'm talking about in this video. Okay, so after you're done drafting, you transfer it to your fabric. To your fabric, you are going to cut the way you have drafted. Once you learn how to now transfer, then that's when the sewing comes in. You are going to go on your machine, and you are going to use your pins to pin your fabrics together so that they should be in place. And then you are going to start sewing. You are going to start learning how to sew. And some tips when it comes to sewing. You have to make sure you are calm. If you are not calm, if you are impatient, you have to adapt this character. It's a character that you need in fashion designing. Whether you are a tailor, you just want to be a tailor, you want to be a fashion designer who knows how to sew, you need to be calm. You need to be patient when you are engaging yourself in a sewing project. Because if you are frustrated, frustration will contribute to the outcome of your project. You are not going to be able to produce something that will be high quality because you are frustrated. Believe you me, I'm not excluding myself. I'm telling you the experience that I've gone through. Girl here always tell you about her experience, the process that she has gone through. So what I'm telling you, believe you me, I was also frustrated. And that's when I learned that, so if I have to do a good job, I have to calm myself down and I have to be patient. I cannot lie to you. You are going to be frustrated because, once you want to learn something, you make sure that it has to be on point. You just want to perfect it. Because in my previous video, I mentioned that sewing is a work of perfection. There's no room for mistakes or imperfection. You have to make sure it's perfect. That's the whole purpose why people want to have designer-made clothes, because they want it to be perfect. Something that will suit their body. They want it to be perfect. So you cannot just be perfect like that in one day. You have to be patient. Know that you are learning. Allow yourself to learn. Allow yourself to go through the process. I beg you. That's what matters. Know that you are learning. Be calm and be patient. And be in the process. That's how you are going to enjoy the process of learning how to sew. You understand? Because that's what garment construction is all about in fashion designing. You have to go through the process. You have to be patient. You have to be calm enough to know that you are learning. You are going to make mistakes. But you are not going to be stuck there. After a month or so, you should be able to see improvement. Another thing that you are going to learn as a beginner in sewing is how to attach a zip. Oh, did I say a zip? Yes, I said a zip. Guys, let me scratch myself. Attaching a zip was one of my challenges that I faced when I was learning how to sew. It was so frustrating. I could watch videos where people are attaching. I watched a lot of videos on how to attach the zip, but I just couldn't get it right. Somehow, I just couldn't get it right. Why? Later, I realized that I was just frustrated. I was not patient enough to learn. I was not patient enough to go through the process. So it was a long process for me because I was frustrated. Because I'm that kind of a person that when I want to do something, I put all my mind, my effort, my focus, my determination in it. And I give myself timeline that by this time I should know how to do this. No, don't do that to yourself. Calm down. Don't be too hard on yourself just because you want to achieve something in a timely manner. Of course, it's important to give yourself time bound. Remember, when you're planning things, you have to be smart. Yeah? You have to be smart, specific. It has to have time bound, measurable, all those things. But yeah, be in the process. The reason why I got frustrated when I was learning how to attach a zip is because I wasn't patient enough. So that was one of my challenges. I just couldn't wrap it around my head. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, that's the experience that I went through. But then later, I calmed myself down. I said, okay, Nafi, you know you can do this. So my inner self was speaking to my outer self, like, you know you can do this. Sometimes I will spend the whole day thinking of, like, trying to figure out how I should sew this zip. I have watched a lot of videos on how to do this. And the way people are doing it, it's so simple. It looks so simple, but why can't I get it? That was my worry. But then later, I realized that I was frustrated and I was impatient. So I calmed myself down. I allowed myself to be in the process and I allowed myself to do it again. The next time I gave it a go again, your girl now is a pro. Guys, if there's one thing that I enjoy doing at the moment now when I'm doing anything is attaching a zip. Believe you me, it turned out to be one of the best things that I can do. But at first I used to spend like even 30 minutes attaching a zip. But now, girl, she knows that she got this. I can attach a zip like within 3 minutes. I'm done. You know what I mean? I'm done. So yeah, attaching a zip. But then I'm not saying that that can be a challenge to you. No, but it was a challenge to me because I was impatient and I allowed frustration to take the better of me. So I don't mean to say that it will also be a challenge to you. It might be as simple as it is. Another thing, as a beginner, you are going to learn how to make buttonholes. So there is a stitch for buttonholes on your sewing machine. It will help you to be able to make buttonholes and to attach buttons. Those are the basic stuff that you need to learn as a beginner. Once you learn how to do all these things, and another thing also, it depends what kind of a neck you want. Whether you want a Chinese collar, that means you're going to learn how to sew a basic collar and a collar stand. Apart from that, another thing that you are going to learn as a beginner is to attach pockets. So you can attach pockets in different ways. Inseam pockets or outseam pockets, backside pockets, pockets that comes on the bust. You are going to learn all that as a beginner. So I think on a garment, that's all that you are going to learn. Once you learn all these things, how to draft the basic bodice, the basic skirt, basic dress, basic trouser, you learn how to draft, because everything before you attach it to each other, you have to draft it. It's a must, guys. I know in the past, people were just doing it as freehand. That was in the past. Now we are here in this moment. Things have changed. You hear other people, they will say, you can use free hands, and that is for experienced people. But as a beginner, you need to learn how to do pattern drafting, so that it might be the disadvantage of pattern making or pattern drafting is time consuming. Instead of you just drafting on your fabric and cut it, you are first drafting it on a paper so that you shouldn't make mistakes. So as you can see, it's time consuming, but it helps you to minimize or to eliminate unnecessary mistakes that you could make. You understand? In that way also, it helps you not to waste fabric. So let's just imagine that you just go straight ahead. You just go and draft your pattern on your fabric. So if it was the only fabric that you were working with and you made a mistake, what are you going to do? There's no way you are going to correct it, because once you cut it, it's done. You get? So that's the whole point of pattern drafting. So it's simple stuff. So once you learn all the basic to draft with the basic stuff, and you'll be able to transfer them on the fabric you cut. Once you touch, it's now the garment construction where you have to now stitch it together. Stitch it together to bring your design to life. Yeah. So that's all that you need to know: to attach the zip, to attach the pockets, the sleeves, the neckline, how you want the neckline to be, and the basic bodice, the basic skirt, a trouser, a basic skirt, a basic bodice, basic trouser, basic dress, basic sleeves, attaching a zip, attaching pockets. That way, making buttonholes and attaching buttons. That's all you need to learn as a beginner. Once you learn how to perfect all these things, you can gladly tell yourself that I know how to sew, because now you know how to take body measurements. You know how to read your tape measure. You know how to take your body measurements. You know how to transfer your body measurements to a pattern. Now you know how to draft your pattern. After drafting your pattern, you know how to transfer it on your fabric. After you're done transferring, you know how to sew. Remember, you have already practiced how to sew on a straight line, but it's an ongoing process. With time, I cannot say there's a time limit to how you are going to learn how to sew on a straight line, because personally, I will tell you my experience. When I was learning how to sew on a straight line, I went straight on the fabric. I was learning it on the fabric because I didn't want to do it on a paper, to be honestly. So yeah, that's just me. It worked for me. And within 2 to a month, I saw that I improved. I did not put my mind in it. I was just practicing, but within 2 to 4 weeks, I could see that there's an improvement. And then I just concentrated now on other things. That's all, guys. I believe this information is going to be helpful to someone who would like or who is interested to know how to sew. Even in fashion designing, your first year, you are going to learn garment construction. So garment construction consists of all these things that I've said. So yeah, that's that. Freely have I shared this information with you. Freely share with your family and friends. Don't be stingy. This is a new year. Learn how to share. Sharing is caring. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, thank you. Bye.